Hello, welcome to this very special edition of the Pace Report. I'm Brian Pace. As you know, I'm a stickler for making sure that my viewers and music fans are on the cusp of knowing who is really getting ready to make a very important dent in Black American music. And tonight here on the Pace Report, I'm going to introduce you to a young guitarist by the name of Dan Wilson. Now, Dan Wilson has been making some very important inroads in jazz music. One, he played in Joey DeFrancisco's very last organ trio, as well as he has played with the great Christian McBride. Now, his current Mack Avenue Record release, Things Eternal, is a reflection of his family as well as remembrance of his grandmother, but is also produced by his mentor, the great Christian McBride. Now, his album also has a lot of originals as well as some traditional standard pop and soul songs. Tonight here on the Pace Report, you're going to see highlights of him performing at the 2024 Pittsburgh International Jazz Festival at the August Wilson Cultural Center in downtown Pittsburgh. We had a chance to sit down and break bread and reflect on the life of Joey DeFrancisco. We also sit down and talk about some of his most important influences, as well as talk about the great George Benson, who also plays a very important part as one of his guitar heroes, as well as talk about the church and how it was very important in laying the foundation to him musically as well as spiritually. So sit back, relax, and enjoy highlights of Mr. Dan Wilson live at the 2024 Pittsburgh International Jazz Festival here on the Pace Report. Man Wilson, I have followed you for a minute. Christian McBride, and I think the last time we saw each other was a couple of years ago at Syracuse. You played with Joey D.
Yeah.
Right? A couple of weeks before he passed away.
With Syracuse? No, I wasn't on Syracuse. Yeah, that was his last gig. Yeah, I wasn't on that one. Last time I played with Joey was in Philly at Temple.
Temple, okay.
Yeah, that was a couple months before he passed.
At this point in your career, are you comfortable with how you are evolving as a guitarist and a band leader?
Comfortable? I don't know. I as artists, man, we're never comfortable. We're never comfortable. There's always like a certain restlessness that kind of feeds us, or feeds on us sometimes. So I'm always, just preoccupied with trying to get better, But I'm definitely in the process of learning how to be an effective band leader. Just like little things that, especially the stuff that happens off of the bandstand. Just as far as like, logistics, and my wife is instrumental in that part of it. Just like getting the logistics together, routing, and reaching out to different venues. So I'm just constantly, restlessly growing.
That's interesting. Your album, Things Eternal, Mack Avenue Records. This is under Christian McBride's imprint, Brother Mister, and you've had some very interesting mentors. Christian being one, and Joey D. We'll talk about him in a minute.
Sure.
This album is an amalgamation of some of the songs you like, and some like 2 originals on this album.
I can't remember.
I think it's like two originals.
Something like that.
Yeah, two originals.
Things Eternal.
Yeah, it's two. Three. And what attracted me was the album before this, because I was like, wow. I mean, I don't hear too many brothers playing guitar. Yeah. And the fact that you are coming from the George Benson school, which is even interesting too. Mm-hmm. How is it that you approach guitar mentally and spiritually? Because music is a spiritual connection, and I see, from when you started and where you are now, you're saying a little bit more with less.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I feel like that's a sort of a natural progression. But the interesting thing is, like, in the church that I grew up in, offhand I can name about 30 guitarists that I drew inspiration from just in the church. So this is before I ever heard a jazz record. I was already under the influence of Wes Montgomery, George Benson, Grant Green, Charlie Christian, Joe Pass, Herb Ellis, guys like that. I didn't even know who they were, but every guitarist in our church, we had different districts. So we would have local district meetings, and then we would have like the big convocations. And that's when I would hear all the different guitarists. There were some on the West Coast, there were some on the East Coast, there were some in the Midwest, there were some from the South. And they just all happened to be into all the jazz greats. And it was a really unique situation. So, I would just sit up in the pew next to them and just kind of watch what they were doing. And then I began to kind of dig into their influence. They'd be like, oh, well, you like that, you should check out Joe Pass. And check out Charlie Christian. Check out George Benson. And check out Wes Montgomery. And now Wes was my entrance to jazz. And because it was so similar to our church music. I heard Wes and Jimmy Smith, the dynamic duo. So when I heard that, I was like, man, it just leapt off of the record player. And then I heard George Benson, and I'm still not right after that.
I don't think anybody's right after George Benson. I mean, And, you know, unfortunately, when Wes Montgomery died, the reign went to him.
Yeah.
And I guess the 70s, I guess when Breezin' came out, I think he was kind of tired of the jazz box, and he flipped and went R&B, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Nah, man, he, like Russell Malone used to say, he never sold out. He cashed in on his talent.
That's it.
You know, he. I always love that phrase, because even, you know, people who you know, like the dog Breezin', you know, or some of his pop stuff, I challenge you to play that much guitar.
Right.
Anywhere.
Right.
You know, he's playing a lot of guitar on Breezin'. And like, you know, and over the years I've gotten the privilege to get to know him, and you know, I'm just I can't say enough good things about him. I mean, he's just like the nicest guy in the world. Like I called him one day, and I didn't account for the time difference from the East Coast to Phoenix time. So and you know, phone rings, you know, and he's like, yeah, hello, Dan, yeah, just give me, it's a little early over here, man, just give me about an hour and I can get back to you. I was like, I'm so sorry, you know, and this is a man who's lived 7 lifetimes, you know, been at the top of the world as far as stardom is concerned, and he still finds the time to answer the phone because he knows how much I admire him.
album is an amalgamation of some of the songs you like and some like 2 originals on this album.
I can't remember.
I think it's like two originals.
Something like that.
Yeah, two originals.
Yeah,
it's
three.
And what attracted me was the album before this, because I was like, wow, I mean, I don't hear too many brothers playing guitar. And the fact that you are coming from the George Benson school, which is even interesting too. How is it that you approach guitar mentally and spiritually? Because music is a spiritual connection, and I see, you know, from when you started and where you are now, you're saying a little bit more with less.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like that's a sort of a natural progression, you know. But the interesting thing is, like, in the church that I grew up in, you know, offhand I can name about 30 guitarists that you know, that I drew inspiration from just in the church. So this is before I ever heard a jazz record. You know, I was already under the influence of Wes Montgomery, George Benson, Grant Green, Charlie Christian, Joe Pass, Herb Ellis, you know, guys like that. I didn't even know who they were, but, you know, every guitarist in our church, you know, we had different districts. So we would have local district meetings, and then we would have like the big convocations. And that's when I would hear all the different guitarists. There were some on the West Coast, there were some on the East Coast, there were some in the Midwest, there were some from the South. And they just all happened to be into all the jazz greats. And it was a really unique situation. So, you know, I would just sit up in the pew next to them and just, you know, kind of watch what they were doing. And then I began to kind of dig into their influence. They'd be like, oh, well, you know, you like that, you should check out Joe Pass. And, oh, check out Charlie Christian. You know, check out George Benson. And check out Wes Montgomery. And now Wes was my entrance to jazz. And because it was so similar to our church music. I heard Wes and Jimmy Smith, the dynamic duo. So when I heard that, I was like, man, you know, it just leapt off of the record player. And then I heard George Benson, and, you know, I'm still not right after that. You know?
I don't think anybody's right after George Benson. I mean, and, you know, unfortunately, when Wes Montgomery died, the reign went to him. Yeah. And I guess the 70s, I guess when Breezin' came out, I think he was kind of tired of the jazz box, and he flipped and went R&B, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Nah, man, he, like Russell Malone used to say, he never sold out, he cashed in on his talent.
That's it.
You know, he, I always loved that phrase, because even, you know, people who you know, like the dog Breezin', you know, or some of his pop stuff, I challenge you to play that much guitar.
Right.
Anywhere.
Right.
You know, he's playing a lot of guitar on Breezin'. And, like, you know, and over the years, I've gotten the privilege to get to know him. And, you know, I'm just, I can't say enough good things about him. I mean, he's just like the nicest guy in the world. Like, I called him one day, and I didn't account for the time difference from the East Coast to Phoenix time. So, and you know, the phone rings, you know, and he's like, yeah, hello, Dan, yeah, just give me, it's a little early over here, man, just give me about an hour, and I can get back to you. I was like, I'm so sorry, you know, and this is a man who's lived 7 lifetimes, you know, been at the top of the world as far as stardom is concerned, and he still finds the time to answer the phone because he knows how much I admire him. You know, that's a powerful example. You know.
You know, I'm listening to your playing, and there's some adulthood in it. There's no youthfulness in it. You got a little old soul in this. Did the church, because when you brought up the growing up in the church, yeah. I had to think about the great gospel vocal groups of the 40s, 50s, and 60s always had a guitarist in it.
Yeah, Dixie Hummingbirds, Swanee Quintet.
Quintet?
Yeah. And that was my man. Willingham, that was my man. Reverend Reuben Willingham. I love that stuff. I love that stuff, man. And Dixie Hummingbirds.
Yeah.
And
that stuff, the guitarist was kind of bluesy.
Oh, kind of. Whew. Yeah. They were, and the way they played rhythm was unbelievable. Like they used to, like there's a term in quartet music, gospel quartet music called a drive. You know, that's when you really, you know, you get to, like there's no other way to explain it other than a drive. The rhythmic drive, you know, is just so much forward motion. And when I hear those guys like Swanee Quintet, when they get into that drive, man, there's nothing like it. So that's what really attracts me to music. That whatever that is, you know, whatever you might call that, I try to bring it to jazz.
That's interesting. Have you ever thought about recording a gospel record?
Oh yeah, all the time. I mean that's such a huge part of my identity, you know, because like even while I was learning jazz, I was you know, even before jazz, it was all gospel. But even while I was learning jazz, you know, it was like the '90s, so like John P. Key had just hit. He was on top of the world, so I learned all that music. Fred Hammond,
Kirk Franklin.
Yeah. You know, I played all that music. You know, and I grew to love that music. So it's like I never want to turn off that part of my identity.
Well, you shouldn't.
No,
you know,
no.
The gospel says make a joyful noise.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. That's what it says. Yeah.
And your gift. I want to talk about Russell Malone. We lost him a little while ago, and the one thing that Russell did on all of his albums, the last track, or maybe he always played a gospel song on every record that he made.
Yeah.
And that attributes to his Southern upbringing, the church. What is your take on Russell now that he's left us?
Man, just gratitude, man. You know, I used to. So I met Russell maybe about close like 15, 20 years ago, and you know we got introduced by the great guitarist Calvin Keys, who we just lost also. He lived out in Northern California, and you know I had gotten to know Calvin, and he was like, you know, man, I'm gonna call Russell, man. I'm gonna tell him about you, man. This is a young brother playing guitar, man. And Russell called me out of nowhere, and you know we were instant friends. And he would call me and offer me this like sage advice, you know, on career, on learning jazz, and learning music, on, you know, just all things related to the guitar. And we used to talk like every couple of weeks, and you know, for that long. And I really just like came to value his advice. Like I'd be hanging on his every word, you know, and it's just like it tears me up. Like just knowing I didn't know how sick he was.
No one did.
No, man. And we used to talk all the time. And he called me right before he left for Japan, and he said he was like, "Dan, man, I'm on my way to a gig, and just want to let you know I listened to your album, The Things Eternal, twice through, man, and I love it, and you know it's great to hear your grandmother's voice on there. He loved my grandmother, and he said when he heard her voice on there, he got the goosebumps, and that meant so much to me, man. I got kind of choked up, you know, and then couple like a week later, I got a call from Benny Green, and he was just like, man, I don't think it's out for publication yet, but you know, we lost our brother, man. I was like, what? And it tore me up, man. It just so I had no clue.
No one did.
No clue.
No one did.
Yeah.
You know, another guitar player who I've interviewed many times on the Pace of Ford is Bobby Broom. And
bad dude.
yeah, Bobby, But when in the '80s, when I was middle school, high school, Bobby, Stanley Jordan, and there's another guitarist that I'm missing. They were kind of the pieces, and Pat Metheny. But Bobby too, you know, said a lot, and still saying a lot in his day with the Morgan trios. Man, what's your take on Bobby?
Oh man, he's so bad. It's like what I love about Bobby Broom is the clarity. Each note is like just really like. I was just listening to him the other day, and it's crazy that we haven't run into each other yet. We've never met. We haven't met yet. It's crazy, but I'm a huge fan.
Have you talked to him?
No. We
I'm gonna make that happen.
Okay, cool.
I'm gonna make that happen.
Cool.
I'm gonna make that happen.
I'm a fan. I mean, he's the clarity of every note is just like, you know, like some guitarists, you know, they'll like run through a fast line, and you know that's nice, you know, but like when you can really hear the attack on every note, it's clear as a bell. You know, that's one thing that's always knocked me out about Bobby's playing, and his eighth note feel is pretty spectacular. So, yeah.
What do you do as far as shedding? What do you do when you are practicing? What are the things that you're doing there, and what are you doing when you're writing and composing as well?
When I'm practicing, I'm mainly just learning songs. That's my main thing. Like, I'm learning songs and just to see how songs are put together, and that's kind of all. It's always been like that, you know. I mean, I work out some technical things, like if I see like a deficiency or if I feel the deficiency. You know, I'll work that out slowly and try to speed it up, but I'm not really going through like etudes or exercises or anything like that. I'm trying to learn music, you know. And if I'm writing, especially now, like with the Things Eternal, you know, that whole process was just a way to deal with grief, you know, because, you know, I lost my grandmother and we were like that, and then, you know, my dad had a major stroke like 3 days before my son was born.
Wow.
And then, you know, on top of that, Joey passed, and so I was like, which way is up? And thankfully, my wife was like, hey, you need to go see somebody. You need to go see a grief counselor, and she helped me find a grief counselor, and he was like, it's cool dude. His brother, he's like real into like African spirituality, and you know, and so we would talk a lot about that, and you know, he was just like, find a way to memorialize your mentors and the people that helped to form you, to help to form who you are. And so I was like, yeah, that's a good way of dealing with it. So in order to process that immense loss, you know, I just like, you know, I have this thing, a whole collection of voicemails from my grandmother, a bunch of aunts and uncles, my parents, a bunch of my heroes in the jazz world. I got some from Monty Alexander, from John Clayton, and for a while I couldn't play those messages from my grandmother. I got a bunch of them, and so I was just become unglued, you know. But after a while, that kind of fueled the writing process, and I woke up one night, you know, from a dream, and I started writing the lyrics to Things Eternal. So that kind of so it happened.
DeFrancesco. I have a very extensive relationship with him. I used to tell Joey, I said, man, on my prom, my junior prom, I had 3 cassettes that I played. I played. It was X-Clan.
Yeah. Wow.
Sex Packets, Digital Underground, and Where Were You, his second record.
Wow.
And I followed him right up until he passed away, and we developed kind of a friendship over the years. And not only was he was a tremendous spirit, but he had a vision of the past, the present, and in the now. And you were part of the now. Tell me about him as a musician, and what did you learn from him playing with him?
Man, as a musician, like when I think about it now, man, I just kind of, it blows my mind that, because you know, sometimes when you're in it, it's just like, you know, I'd be on the greatest gig of my life, and I'd be thinking about like, well, I wonder when I get back to the hotel room, is the air conditioner gonna be working? I specifically remember thinking that on the Dizzy's gig that's on the internet, it's on YouTube, and the whole time I'm thinking like, wow, it sure is hot here. I wonder if there's gonna be air conditioning back in the hotel. Meanwhile, Joey's playing like the most genius stuff, and you know, you just don't fully appreciate it when you're in it. You know, like there'll be some nights where like he would just do like this Herculean, you know, musical stuff, you know, where we would just like, we just kind of be looking at him like, we don't know when to come in, you know. So and that's like, when I think about it, like I spent, you know, 5-6 years around like an actual genius, you know, like not and, you know, we use that term very loosely, and
well, he's a child prodigy.
Right.
Joey was playing literally because his father was a famous organist too. But man, Miles Davis called him when he was freaking 17.
Yeah. But you know, like once you get around them, like off the bandstand, you see like what parts of their personality are, you know, would lend themselves to him just being better than everybody else in the world at the organ. So like, you know, for example, we'd be in the van, you know, going from gig to gig, and you know, some of us, it'd be early in the morning, we'd just be knocked out, like, you know, just passed out. And Joey, he could never turn his mind off. He'd be in the van just kind of looking around, you know, never knocked out in the van. And there's another element that I see of genius, you know, just being around geniuses every once in a while, there's an element of compulsion. So if Joey would find a joke that he liked, for days, like every 5 minutes, he would repeat that same joke. So sometimes in the van we'd be like, man, he's gonna do the punchline again. But you know, that's how his mind worked. You know, I have the sax player Troy Roberts. We compiled a list of jokes that Joey repeated, and we marked them by city. And so there's a ton of them. There's a ton of them. But that was one of the craziest things about him, and his memory was ridiculous. Like people would come up to him and be like, Joey, I saw you in 1996 in Spain. And he'd be like, oh yeah, I remember you. You were the guy with the red hat. We'd be like, what is going on here? You know. So yeah, that's one of the things that I learned from being with him was the value of keeping a working band. You know, a lot of these festivals will put these super bands together for people who haven't played together a lot. You know, they just might have a big name, and I get it because they want to sell tickets. But the product that you're getting is going to be vastly inferior to a band that's actually been working. And Joey believed that. He was just like, nah, man, I can play with anybody I want, but I want to keep my band.
He got that from Jimmy Smith. He got that from the great organist. And that's that mentality that he carried on through. Christian McBride is another gentleman that, oh, man, I mean, 8 Grammys, 3 or 4 ensembles, prolific broadcaster now. I mean, and the stuff that he does just never ceased to amaze me. And his band, playing with him, what's it like?
Oh man, it's a similar thing to Joey. You know, just being around a genius. Like some nice, like one specific instance that I remember is playing at Dizzy's, and Emmett, the pianist, was soloing. You know, we did it in the middle of the blues, about right here, and Emmett's blowing. I mean, just ripping, and McBride wasn't even soloing. He was just walking, and his walking lines were so incredible, and the feel that was coming from those walking lines was so incredible that Emmett stopped soloing and looked at me, and he was just like, I was like, I don't know, man, I don't know. So like that's the type of power that's coming from his musical mind. Like I'll never forget that. Like he stopped Emmett in the middle of his solo, and just because I mean he was just like laying down so much pocket. No drummer. He was just laying down so much pocket, so much soul, and so much melodicism. You know, it's really an incredible thing to see. I mean, not to mention that when he starts soloing, I mean it's frightening. You know, but there's another genius. You know, off the bandstand, you start to see. You know, that crazy memory. You know, we actually go back and forth because Lean on Me is our favorite movie with Morgan Freeman. So we know the whole script.
HNIC.
HNIC. This is not a democracy.
This is not a democracy.
Yeah. So like we go back and forth. We go back and forth with that, man, and he knows the entire script verbatim. It's crazy.
You're fired.
Yeah, right. You do know what fire is.
Yeah.
Terminated. Over.
My favorite part of that scene is when him and Robert Guillaume, after he had to hire him back, and then after, because they were best friends, and he was in charge, and Joe Clark, he put him in his place, and then they walk out and said, "Let's go have dinner."
Yeah, that's it. You really think you bad, don't you?
Yeah. are an effective band leader, and is there room for growth?
Yeah, I think that. Well, I'm hoping I'm like not in a separate group chat from my, my band. Is like, I can't stand this fool. Yeah, I think over the years, I think I've learned how to be an effective band leader. As far as just like trying to get the best out of the musicians that I hire, and I don't do it like in a, like I'm not condescending towards them. I'm not trying to like do like tough love or anything like that. Like the people that I hire, we develop like a friendship, and I take into account their taste, their what they like to listen to, and I value their input, so I try to do that while giving, kind of clear expectations about, what I would like to have, what I would like to accomplish musically. But I mean, there's always room for growth. I'm like, I can be absent-minded. I can be unorganized. So I'm in that way. I'm growing.
Dan Wilson, I ask this to everybody, so be prepared to sweat gravy when I ask you this question.
Shoot.
Dan Wilson, what does Black American music mean to you?
Oh man, it means, Black American music, man. I think it is the force that drives really all of the popular music in this country. I mean, I think it's highly consumed and underappreciated. But it's something I think that outlives all of the really all of the racism, all of the oppression that we experience as Black people in this country, and it's something for us to be proud of. That I think Black American music for me means is excellence in spite of circumstances. That would be my definition of Black American music is excellence in spite of the circumstances.
That'll do it again for another edition of the Pace Report. I'm Brian Pace. I'd like to personally thank the incomparable Dan Wilson for his time. Make sure you support his current Mack Avenue Records release, Things Eternal, which is now available on iTunes, Amazon.com, and CD Baby. And for more information on his upcoming tour dates, as well as to order his music, you can visit his website at danwilsonguitar.com. Also, I'd like to personally thank the staff and management at the August Wilson Cultural Center in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, as well as give a mad shout out to Ms. Janice Burley, the artistic director of the Pittsburgh International Jazz Festival. For more information on the 2025 Pittsburgh International Jazz Festival, please visit them online at pittsburghjazzfest.org. Also, I'd like to personally give a mad shout out to Miss Clarelyn McClare for Clarelyn McClare Public Relations for arranging my time with Dan. As always, people, I can't stress this more than enough. Please like, share, and subscribe to my videos here on YouTube and Vimeo, as well as leave comments. And follow me on social media by way of Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Until next time, remember, if it's in the groove, it'll make you move. Till next time, peace.